Let's take you now to Umgababa, where protesters yesterday blocked the N2 highway. Our reporter Lethiwe Mdluli is there and joins us now. Lethiwe, a little bit earlier you were on the M19, now you've moved to the N2. Give us an update of the situation there. We can see in the background of that shot there is a burnt-out truck partially blocking the road, but give us an indication of, are there still protesters? What's the police presence like?
Well, currently here on the N2 near Umgababa, there are no protesters on the N2, but as you can see, there's a truck right behind me that is actually blocking the left shoulder of this road. We have been told by the police who are stationed here that protesters made their way here in the early hours of the morning, and they did set this truck alight. Coming into Umgababa, the south side of the N2 was also affected a bit earlier on, but that side has been cleared. But currently, the N2 heading north, heading into Durban, is partially affected. Motorists are cautioned to drive safely and also be on the lookout. But as you can see, the truck right behind me was burnt, and it's believed it's from the former President Jacob Zuma's supporters that were calling for his release. We understand that he is serving his 15-month jail term at the moment. KZN has been affected by this. Yesterday there was a KZN shutdown with lots and lots of roads affected. This road was also affected yesterday, but this morning, as you can see, the protesters took it a step further and they did burn down this truck.
Lethiwe, can you tell us whether any arrests have been affected in relation to this specific incident at the location where you currently are?
So when we got here, I actually got a chance to speak to the police who are stationed here, and they did mention that there were no arrests that were made earlier on, but they are going around the communities around here trying to gather more information as to who started this protest. But currently no arrests were made. It's only the 13 protesters that have been arrested that were arrested in Mpangeni yesterday.
Lethiwe, can you tell us whether there are any planned protests in the area where you currently are on the N2 up and down KZN's coast today that you know of or that police have identified so far this morning?
Well, what we have actually been seeing in the past 2 days is that these protests erupt and then quickly the protesters will move to a different area. As we saw that these protests started on Thursday. So every time something happens on one part of Durban, the protesters will quickly move to a different part. On Thursday, the protest actually started on the N2 near Balito. The Umvoti toll plaza was actually affected. But those protesters quickly moved to different areas, and overnight we saw that the KZN shutdown, that's where it started. And yesterday morning when we woke up, the M19 highway was affected, and they then quickly moved to different areas, including Mpangeni, including Mandeni, where my colleague Dason Tathia was at. And the south coast yesterday was not that much affected. But we woke up to news that the southway, or the N2 heading south, was actually affected, and now the N2 heading north is affected. So what we've noticed over the past few days is that these protests take place and then they quickly move to different areas. And that has been said that these protesters are actually avoiding police or being arrested. So I can confirm, well, I cannot actually confirm whether there will be any protest action taking place here on the south side of Durban in Umgababa, but we might see other protests erupting a bit later on. We will be following those protests and we will be bringing you those updates.
Lethiwe, Brigadier Jay Naika, KZN SAP spokesperson, spoke to us a little bit earlier. He cited the scattered nature of these protests as one of the reasons why it's been very difficult to make arrests. He's also said that police resources are stretched very thin because of the large area in which these protests are taking place. But let me ask you this. Have you seen any large concentrated police presence in terms of crowd control, police members, nyalas, water cannon, anything that might indicate that the police are trying to mount a bigger defense against what damage has been done over the course of the past 3 days?
Regarding police presence heading into Umgababa, we saw 2 vehicles stationed on the N2. But I will say that with each area that we have been visiting, we only find 1 police vehicle, and we were told by the police minister that a huge contingency of police were deployed into the province to monitor this protest. But every time where we approach an area where the protests are taking place, we do find 1 vehicle. Earlier on, when I was on the M19, when we got there, there was no police presence at that moment, and we saw 2 police vans approaching after we had been there for about 20 minutes. So there's not a lot of police presence in these hot areas currently in Durban. But where I'm standing right now, we do have around 3 vehicles that are monitoring this area. And when we left the M19 earlier, there were about 2 police vehicles. What I have been seeing also is that the police are avoiding in approaching those volatile situations, because on the M19 earlier, we did see the protesters throwing stones to motorists and also just being violent towards the motorists. That situation, the police did not move in at that moment. They are just saying that they will be monitoring that situation. And the reason why these arrests honestly have not been happening, I think it's because the protesters, whenever they approach an area and they start that protest, they quickly move away, just like Brigadier Jainaka did mention. But for Umgababa, at the moment, there are no protesters. So the police are saying that they will be getting more information from the communities around here to basically get more information as to who started this protest. But so far, no arrests have been made.